Brakathia Howell, Brakathia Hawashai, Brakathia Howell, Brakathia Hawashai, Brakathia Howell, Brakathia Howell, Bashim Hawashai, Bahashem, Dash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there, you Akim to Sadakim that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. I'm the priest Shaman. This week's topic is going to be entitled 2026, and our people still do not know who they are. This is inspired by true life events. So at one of my jobs, co-worker comes up to me and we talking about a bunch of shit, secret societies and the shit that they do and how much they lied, and he goes, so I don't even want to get started on the history. So he starts going into all this history, into slave trade. I'm like, okay. Then he starts going into he starts telling me that a lot of us, I'm a so-called Jamaican, Benjamin, right? So-called Jamaican. He's also Jamaican. He's like, a lot of us think we from Africa, but our heritage also comes from the East. He starts to go into roughly kind of paraphrasing this thing. So I'm like, holy shit, is this guy gonna start going into Israelites? Now, guess what? He starts going into the fact that some of us are Africans, but you have Africans that were in Europe and this, that, and those, and this, that, and the third. Long story short, man, this guy starts going into some related to them East Indians, the Elamites. He said the locks, they started the locks, the dreadlocks, and ganja. I don't give a shit about that. Even if that's true or not, we're not that, all right? We're not Elamites. I don't know why our people, well, I do know why our people, actually. But our people, historically, when you read the scriptures, it has an affinity to want to be associated with the other nations. You know, so he's tying civilization to I don't know what. He's saying it's before Africa, whatever. But here's what the scriptures say. Galatians chapter 4, verse 26 says, but Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is mother of us all. And when you read, you go back to Genesis, the Garden of Eden. He planted a garden eastward in Eden. That was Jerusalem. That's the start of civilization. All right. Eden was the whole world. Eastward in Eden was talking about Jerusalem. All right. That's the mother of everything. You know. Look, Jacob is ultimately the form of all things. You know. So he's right about the part with them Hamites. And because, you know, everybody says civilization started in Africa. Esau then started that. And then Esau says, when Esau says it, he shows you that it's all mockery. When Esau says it, he shows you some picture of some ape-looking hybrid shit, saying that's where it all started. In other words, you monkey-ass niggas. You know, now when you wake up to the truth, you can see that it's just all mockery. You know, but if you're not privy to what's going on, you might just believe that shit, that you know, that we started from some monkeys or some shit out there in Africa. It's ridiculous. You know, there's no such thing as macro evolution where you could change species. You know, they'll do that. They'll have a picture of a T-Rex. Say, you know what? See them chickens in your backyard? Those are once T-Rexes. Like how? Like what? Oh, billions of years ago. How the hell can you know billions of years ago? That's a religion in itself right there, man. Okay? All you gotta do is go back to the scriptures, all right? There's no monkeys that turn into humans. Look, scriptures tell you what? One flesh, there's a flesh of one and a flesh of another, right? Okay? The reptilian snake world kingdom, that's their thing. Sorry, reptiles. Let me not even say reptilians. I might trigger reptilian David Icke shit. Now that's all bullshit too, but I'm talking about, you know, you have like the snakes and you have birds and you have humans, you have all these different creatures, you know, they all have their own species. You can't jump from one species to the next, man. 1 minute you was a snake, a reptile, dinosaurs, I believe, are reptiles or whatever, that dinosaur realm, and now you in the bird realm. Don't work that way, you know. Everything is passed through seed. Okay, you, whatever your father is, that's what you are. You know, because that's another thing too that our people get wrapped up in, is that region. Africa. No, man. It starts with your father, man. All right, you can have different nationalities, different nations of people in different parts of the world. That doesn't make you that. Your nationality is not determined by the location of where you are on the planet Earth, man. It's determined by whatever your father is, man. Okay, that's how true nationality is done. Ooh, the fuck? Dude. This is the book of Numbers, chapter 1, verse 18. It says, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers. See? That's how come when you want to capture a land, you'll kill off all the males, preserve the females, because the female is just like fertilizer for the sperm, you know? Just like how you put seed in the earth, it fertilizes the seed and help it grow, but you know, ultimately the ground itself can't make an orange tree. You need the seed of the orange, all right? The seed of the apple. Same thing too with us. You need the seed, okay? Yes, the woman plays a role, you know, because a man is not here to fertilize no damn eggs, despite what Esau's trying to put out with his propaganda nonsense, you know. Male and female have their purpose, and the male's purpose is to carry one's lineage. It's really that simple. Salakia. Yeah, the man's purpose is to carry the lineage, man. Alright, it says, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. Right, so this is why you just got to go back to the scriptures, man. This is where all understanding is found. That Jakes, and many Jakes like this, still to this day, keep leading on their own understanding, keep leading on other books, and all that shit does is just put you in a circle, never knowing who you are, all right? So, you know, he sent me a bunch of pictures of Elamites and shit, you know, them Hindus, whatever, with the dreads, and like, if Israelites adopted that culture and custom, that doesn't make them of that nation. Because our people have done that a lot too. Okay? Hosea 4:6 says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy power, I will also forget thy children. Right? So this is why we're in this fucked up predicament. We're in this fucked up situation. Because of a lack of knowledge. All right. First thing first is 2026. You still don't know your nationality. You know, despite how much this thing is being pushed out, this thing been going viral, man, and it's been viral for decades. But here's another thing too: you could wake Jake up or even point him in the right direction, and he don't want to. He don't want to be a king. A lot of these Israelites, they don't want to rule. You know. They can't be in the kingdom unless the other nations have a part. Even guys calling themselves Israelites, man. What you got, Deacon Akkad and them niggas out there? Talking about the so-called white man can make it. So-called white man not gonna make it, man. None of these nations are promised salvation. Alright? Only Israel. Salvation is only of the Jew. Okay? How you call yourself reading the Bible, knowing you're an Israelite, but still trying to have these other nations get up in there, man? So, how do we know that we're the Israelites? Romans 8:16 says, the Spirit itself bear witness, our spirit, that we are the children of the Most High. And the Spirit is going into these prophecies, man. All right, the prophecies that you read about in the scriptures lines up with only us. All right, the fact that we were going to go into slavery. All right, us being brought out of here to America. All that stuff is written about in the scriptures. You know, the 10 lost tribes of the house of Israel, the scattered sheep, that's us. The Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Okay? No matter how much they try to bury that. The book of Revelation, chapter 19, verse 10 says, and I fell at his feet to worship him. And he said unto me, see thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yahushua. Worship the Most High, for the testimony of Yahushua is the spirit of prophecy. And, you know, we take sometimes, you know, Jake come in and, you know, you get so wrapped up in the deeper stuff that it's so, we tend to undermine just how weighty the basic knowledge of just knowing you're Israelite is. You know, a lot of these jakes out here are still lost. And they think they deep. They think they deep because they got some more alternative history or whatever. They think they're on some deeper level. The first thing I was asking this dude too is like, you know, you believe in the Bible. That right there, you know, it could tell you a lot of like, you know, where you're gonna go, type of individual you're dealing with. And he said, I think he said something like to the effect of like some parts or something like that. So I was like, all right, shit, here we go. You know, it's not my head and agree, and because I ain't trying to convert nobody at no job, man. You know, when you go to work, just be Clark Kent, man. Just be Clark Kent. You know, when you're out there in the highways and byways, we're putting together these lessons, the Lord will wake up where He wishes to wake up. You know. But yeah, man, you know, Jake's got to wake up, man. You know, Israelites got to wake up. That's why we got to keep pushing and keep going out there and keep bringing out the fact that we are Israelites, man. All right, according to the scriptures. All right, with that, I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Rachak Kodash. That belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there. Akim to Zadakim that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. Shalom.